Welcome back. So who's ready for some road construction? New Hampshire's infrastructure is getting a big boost from the $1.2 trillion package just passed in Washington. This morning on Close-Up, we were digging in to find out more about the impact we'll be seeing in terms of projects and progress in the years ahead. Here to guide us through the construction zone is NHDOT Commissioner Victoria Sheehan. Thank you for joining us, Commissioner.
My pleasure.
So for starters, can you just give us a sense of scope? Because it's not an insignificant amount of money that comes to the state annually for transportation funding, but this new law is above and beyond.
So this new bill actually replaces the old federal authorization for surface transportation. That bill was called the FAST Act. And so the IIJA, or the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, really continues a lot of the programs that were funded in the FAST Act and then does provide additional dollars. And so what does it mean for New Hampshire's transportation infrastructure? Overall, the bill provides about a 24% increase in each of our core federal highway, road and bridge programs. We then receive an additional $225 million for bridge infrastructure specifically. And then for the other modes of transportation, we're seeing about a 30% increase in funding for public transportation. We'll receive an additional $45.6 million for airports. And then there's a new category of funding specifically for electric vehicle charging infrastructure. And we expect New Hampshire to receive a total of $17 million over the 5-year period.
Wow. So we're heading into the holidays. What's on your list? We know the Executive Council and lawmakers set the priorities in the 10-year plan, but what are some of the big projects that are going to move up and move forward thanks to this funding?
The timing of the passage of this bill was really ideal from our perspective. We had just concluded 22 public hearings across the state, working with the Executive Council. When they meet as GASSET, the Governor's Advisory Committee on Intermodal Transportation, they're really partnering with the department in the first phase of the 10-year plan development. So we now know what we have available for federal funding. We know what the needs are across the state, and we're using this 10-year plan process to identify what work can now be accelerated. And most importantly, there's some projects where we were controlling the scope. Maybe we're doing the first phase of a project, and now we'll have the resources to increase the scope and maybe tackle phase 1 and phase 2 of some of the larger corridor improvements. So we're currently reviewing all of the public testimony with the councillors, meeting with them one-on-one, and we'll be getting back as a GASSET body to start to modify the draft plan based on the feedback that we've heard.
So in terms of right sizing, you can open that funding spigot a little bit more and things move a little bit more quickly. Correct me if I'm wrong here. You started the year with 118 red list bridges. Realistically, how many are on that list once all of this money is expended?
So all of the bridges that are currently on the red list will be addressed with the dollars provided in the IIJA. Unfortunately, based on the age of our infrastructure, as we take one bridge off the red list, another one is added. And so our goal is to reduce the number of bridges on the red list by the end of the 10-year period. And with these additional dollars, we're looking at bringing that number down further and further. I'm hoping to have around 80 red list bridges that are state-owned. In addition, we're going to be providing additional support to the municipalities for their red list bridges as well. And the hope is that we can further bring down that number. But it is challenging. There's a lot of bridges that are what we call near red list, those that are in need of attention sooner rather than later. So we're going to be trying to preserve infrastructure and keep things off the red list, as well as tackle those bridges that are in need of full replacement or rehabilitation. Yeah, that work never ends, of course, but getting it down to 80 would be significant. That would be almost half, I think, of what you had in like 2017, per se. Is the workforce going to be there for these projects? We hear about that in every other sector, that you can't find workers. Are you confident there are going to be enough road construction people to get this work done? This is our current challenge, and we are going to be partnering with the private sector, the consultants and the contractors who support the department in delivering projects to try and recruit that workforce of the future. It's not going to be easy. We are wanting to stretch the value of these dollars. We've advocated for the additional investment in transportation for some time. And so the challenges aren't just around labor and workforce. There's supply chain issues, as well as the cost of gas prices is going up as well. So we're eager to work with the Biden administration, understand what can be done to bring stability so that we really can maximize this opportunity and put the dollars to good use and get as much value for the citizens of New Hampshire as possible.
And Commissioner, one of the constant questions always when it comes to transportation in New Hampshire is the Capital Corridor project, the idea of bringing rail into Nashua, Manchester, maybe one day Concord. What kind of money is in this package for rail if that is prioritized by the legislature and the governor?
So there was no funding specifically provided to New Hampshire for rail. However, in addition to all of the formula funds that we're receiving, there's a lot of discretionary grant opportunities in this bill, not just for rail, but for all different categories of transportation. And so the New Hampshire DOT is currently advancing what's called the project development phase of the Capital Corridor project. That's the preliminary engineering, the environmental permitting, and the financial planning for a commuter rail service. And so as we complete that work, especially the financial plan, we will be looking at all of the grant opportunities that are available to the department and understanding what funding may be available that we could pursue should the legislature and others decide to advance to construction with the Capital Corridor.
I know you're still studying this, but is it your sense the ridership would be there beyond Nashua? Are there enough people who would abandon the vehicle commute to make this make sense?
Well, the financial plan isn't just about how much it's going to cost to construct the project and where the money will come from, but also looking closely at the operating expenses and the ridership to understand what level of subsidy might be necessary. And we've been looking at a lot of examples of other projects across the country and where those dollars come from to support passenger rail service. And so our goal as a department is to have accurate cost information as we develop this plan, so that we can present that information to all of our elected officials and have them decide how they want to move forward. But it is unlikely that fare box will be adequate. In other words, the users of the system and the ticket price does not typically cover the cost of operating a system. And so we have to talk about all of the available funding and potential revenue options should the state want to move forward. That's
the crux of the issue there. So you talked about inflation earlier. I'm curious, with the winter road maintenance ahead, what's the level of concern with the amount of fuel you're going to have to buy, that you always have to buy, to keep those plows out on the road?
Well, we're fortunate that we have fuel contracts that the state negotiates and we lock in our pricing. So we're not as vulnerable as other businesses might be to fuel prices in the near term, but certainly long term, we are always watching closely the cost of all of the commodities, whether it's fuel. The cost of salt itself has gone up significantly. So we were glad to be able to fill up all of our sheds using last year's salt prices and last year's salt contracts. So the department does everything we can to stretch the value of the dollars that the legislature provides to us. And these are uncertain times. So we're watching all of the cost increases carefully and trying to understand what might be short-term versus long-term impacts.
And you had to manage this a little bit last year, but what happens if you're down a significant number of plow drivers due to COVID? What's the plan there?
Well, we continue to prepare for winter. We're actively recruiting to fill some of our vacant positions. And we also have a number of CDL driver or commercial drivers working across the department, not just in highway maintenance. And we have a lot of individuals who volunteer each season to supplement our highway maintenance workforce and help out with plowing. Certainly we're focused on keeping our workforce well, encouraging our employees to get vaccinated and to continue to practice all of those strategies that help us reduce the spread of illness. Stay home if you're not feeling great, get tested so we understand whether it may be COVID. And we're encouraging everyone to just do what they did last year, continue to socially distance where they can, certainly wear masks if it's appropriate. And we're really focused on the health and well-being of our employees and their families. And our strategies worked last year. We were able to continue to deliver a high level of service to those traveling in the state. And that's our hope for this season as well.
All right, NHDOT Commissioner Victoria Sheehan, thank you for joining us on Close Up.
Thank you, Adam.